Okay, let's.
There's that iconic music.
You know, I used to be a drummer, right? Did that
Yeah.
ever come up?
Yeah.
I talked about my drumming.
Exploits.
Yeah, those were the good old days, man. All right, see if I can figure out how to turn the volume down. With
And then back up.
my dyslexia my volume knob dyslexia has been overcome for once. Hello and welcome to the Moon Underwater. I'm Kelly Daniels.
And I'm Steve Jones.
Here we are at headquarters,
We
and
should
we're going to
probably
have some PBR in a bottle. And here's our new innovation.
Yep. A bucket of ice.
Bucket o' ice. Although we slurp these things down so fast, but, whatever.
It's going to be ice cold.
It will be ice cold.
Amazing.
And so, should we just jump right into it?
I mean,
Here's my question.
do we have a hook?
Here's my
You like that I'm getting to that before we even say what we're talking about?
here's my hook. It's a question. Where do you get one of these little kids you get to put in a basement and torture, and it makes everything awesome?
That's
Because
fairly amazing.
we need to get one of those.
We do.
And of course,
That's a good hook.
Of course, we're talking about. Do you want to tell us what we're talking about?
The ones who walk away from Omelas.
The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin.
Yeah.
Ursula K. Le Guin's one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite science fiction and fantasy authors especially. She was a cool stir for sure, and this is not really one of her more signature pieces because
It's so high school, is what you told me.
It is. Look at all that money. Money.
All right.
We just, you may not have seen that on the video, and you definitely didn't, those of you who are listening to the podcast, but Steve's got some serious oneage coming with him, and a 10. Wow. That's
All
nice.
right.
Make it rain, man. Is that what it's
Yeah.
called? Make it rain? Is
Yeah.
that how they do that at the
She told me they were $4 each, which I thought
Yeah.
was steep, but it turns out they were, I think, $4 each one of us.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. I
All
love
right.
it.
I will take four
Yeah,
more.
We are.
Yeah.
Living large.
We are.
Living large. I want to talk about ice buckets and beers at one point, but I guess we got to finish introducing
Yeah.
this piece. So I guess I'll just start by saying from a certain kind of maybe prescriptive creative writing perspective, I don't know that you would even say that this is actually a short story.
Oh, see, I was ready to call it a short story.
Well, it is usually classified as that.
You're going
but-
to get all professor on
But
me here,
why?
Daniels?
Okay, but does it? We've read a lot of short stories
Yeah.
here, right? Is this like them?
No,
What is different?
nothing happens.
Nothing happens. And there's no characters.
That's true.
It's all like it's a situation. It's a setting,
Yeah.
and it's a situation, and
It's
then
a slice of life.
and it's not even that because there's no individual person who's
Oh.
experiencing the life.
No,
right?
I meant in like the other stuff that we've read.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And so it has been called a thought experiment,
Okay.
like the trolley problem or something,
Yeah,
which is...
I love it.
And so it's just one of those things where... And the author, the narrator says, well, the place is like this, but if you don't like that,
You
then,
make it up however
then it's
you
something
want.
else.
Add
Like-
an orgy.
Yeah.
That's a great line.
Me too. So we'll get to the plot such as it is.
Yeah.
But this is a thought piece. It's a piece of kind of rhetorical writing,
Took me a little bit
hypothetical writing that's supposed to get us into discussions.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned that it's taught in high school. There's certainly a common way that it's read, and sometimes it's sort of dismissed. But I also think it's pretty fun, and for 4 pages long, it gets a lot into it.
Yeah.
So,
Just the length for me.
yeah, it's
Got
Steve.
me written all over
It's
it.
Steve friendly.
I even listened to it today while I ran.
Yeah. And you read it?
Yeah.
Read and listened. So
Because
you're
there
ready
was-
to go, man.
Because there was stuff that I was picking up that I'm like,
I haven't even had a sip yet.
Oh, you
Want to know
need
why?
to.
Because I don't have a drinking problem.
oh,
That's
That's true.
Yeah,
That's gotta be. It's gotta be true.
I can wait
Yep.
a good 2 or 3 minutes.
Easy, maybe even 4.
Yeah.
Not 5. So I. I like. There it is. I
That's
like
kinda
the sound
cool.
effects.
I think we just lost whatever listeners we have. Like people hearing like gulping and stuff. I hear that's a thing.
It's a
Like,
thing. I guess I don't like hearing chewing.
So, sorry, we're jumping off topic already. This thing's so short that I feel like
We have to be off topic.
we can get off topic.
Yeah.
But the podcast Freakonomics,
Yeah.
and their logo is like an orange that's an apple inside, right? It's,
Apple on the outside, orange on the inside.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
So they made a little musical refrain that was kind of their logo, and it had a biting of an apple to end it, like.
Yeah.
And after a few episodes, they got rid of it. And the host, Stephen Dubner, said, we heard from a lot of you out there, and apparently some people are so grossed out by the sound of somebody biting into an apple that we're just like,
Wow.
sorry to traumatize you, but we took that off. So,
Wow.
So people don't like that.
Huh.
They don't like to hear people biting into apples.
But drinking beer, swilling beer really is what you were doing.
I was doing that in a performative way. I think that usually I take my glugs of beer away from the mic a little, but
Sure.
yeah. So, and if you want to keep on this thing, I want to tell the story about about the last time I had a bucket of beer.
Oh.
You want to hear it?
Can we make that the hook?
Maybe, but wait. Why don't we wait till we get to the part where she says that there's beer in this great place.
Yeah, okay.
So the basic idea of this story, if you haven't read it, is it's just mainly 80% of it is just describing a city. It's all setting. There's not any characters, and there's a time. So it's like Summerfest. It's the beginning of Summerfest. They're having a parade. They're dancing.
Sure.
The sun is shining. There's boats in the harbor. It's got
Horses.
Horses. They're going to have a horse race. Everybody is happy. And it's basically just the best place ever. And it's just like, hey, man, one of my questions to you is, how hard is it to get an Airbnb for Summerfest at Omelas?
I'm in.
Yeah, but I bet you it's pricey.
Yeah.
Especially for Summerfest. Maybe there's a down season. But Omelas is the perfect place.
Can I say that Omelas is probably covered in stickers with Airbnb ruined this town?
Yeah,
I've seen those around.
They
Like
wouldn't
that.
allow Airbnb in
No.
Omelas. That's the thing. And so where are these people staying who are coming from all over to see Summerfest? Because it is the kind of literally perfect place. Everybody is happy almost. And
Huh. That's interesting.
So anyway, it's a utopia, right? And,
Sure.
And LeGuin actually plays around in a lot of her writing. She writes these attempted utopian societies, and of course, there's always a catch.
Okay.
Most of her novels about this stuff, her utopian novels, the catch is subtle and it's realistic and it's plausible. This time, it's not subtle, realistic, or plausible. Should we get to the thing before?
Can I venture the guess?
What's that?
Well, we can talk about the thing, and then I can venture my guess about what it is. That is the twist on the utopia.
Yeah, do it.
All right. Okay. So as we're going through this, there's a lot of talk about these people not being simple. They were happy. They don't say words of cheer. All smiles have become archaic because everything is so perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think what she's saying is that the author is saying is that when people are happy, we just assume they're stupid.
Yeah, that's also said, yes.
And that's kind of the point. And she's saying, no, these people are happy, but they're not stupid. They're, subtle and they're... Do you have a line you want to read?
I do. I'm trying to find it. Given a description such as this, one tends to look next for the king, mounted on a splendid stallion and surrounded by his noble knights, or perhaps in a golden litter borne by great muscled slaves. But there was no king. They did not use swords or keep slaves. They were not barbarians.
Yeah.
And so it kind of jumped out at me as like there wasn't anybody that was in charge, really. Like it was.
No, that's why it's a utopia.
Right.
I mean, that's the utopian dream is nobody's in charge. Everybody's equal, right?
Mhm.
That's what you're after. That's what the communists
Yeah, I was going to say
promised,
Karl
right?
Marx was right after that too. So.
Yeah, and what we find out is that there's never been a society where everybody's equal.
Couldn't happen.
There's always, and so, but in this case, she's saying, why is it that when we hear about a place where everybody's happy, we just assume that they're stupid, but then we also assume, well, there's got to be some catch, like a king, and maybe it's an oppressive king, and also slaves. Okay, we have slaves, and that kind of explains why it's so easy to live here if you're not a slave.
Right.
But this place doesn't have any of that. And I love all the things that she says, what it does have and what it doesn't. But she also just says, if you don't like this, come up with your own. But this is the one I like.
That of the unnecessary but undestructive, that of comfort, luxury, exuberance, etc. They could perfectly well have central heating, subway trains, washing machines, and all kinds of marvelous devices not yet invented here. Floating light sources, fuelless power, a cure for the common cold. Or they could have none of that. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
As you like it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me too. I love how she talks to us. And I love the part, and she goes, they don't have advertising, and they don't have cars or helicopters.
Well, of course.
And she's like, the biggest,
the
the handsomest building in town is the train station.
Yes.
She likes trains, you know. It's like that's how you get there is through high-speed trains. And they could have cars, they just don't want them. And she's like, okay, if this is sounding too goody-goody for you, okay, let's throw in some orgies.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
Just
they have
an orgy.
orgies, but they don't have priests.
Right.
And they don't have soldiers.
They don't have soldiers.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
She goes, there's a sense of triumph around it, but it's not the triumph that comes from slaughtering people.
Right.
Because that is, should we find that line? Do you happen to know?
I want to read this other one.
Yeah,
but
go.
even granted trains, I fear that Omelas so far strikes some of you as goody-goody. Smiles, bells, parades, horses, blah. If so, please add an orgy. And, that's the line. If an orgy wouldn't help, don't hesitate. Let's not, however, have temples from which issue beautiful nude priests and priestesses already half in ecstasy and ready to copulate with any man or woman, lover or stranger, who desires union with the deep godhead of the blood, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I got a kick out of the very careful description on the first page and really part of the second. And then it was like, but if that doesn't do it for you, invent your own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a line, by the way, going back to the idea that we tend to think people are stupid when they're happy. And only smart people, like unhappy people, tend to be smart. And anyway, I don't... Here's the line. The trouble is that we have a bad habit, encouraged by pedants and sophisticates, of considering happiness as something rather stupid. Only pain is intellectual, only evil interesting. This is the treason of the artist, a refusal to admit the banality of evil and the terrible boredom of pain.
Yes.
I love it. And she's kind of calling out the smart set.
Yeah.
Of, oh, you think you're
so tortured.
Your torture is so interesting. Yeah. It's not. It's actually
not.
Pretty boring.
Right.
And evil is commonplace. Notice that they have horses, and they're really nice to their horses.
They're super nice.
This is a place that's good to horses, to animals.
If you like. If you don't, take the horses out.
Sure. And there was a line I forgot. They don't have the secret police, the bomb. No. I wanted to find the part about not having soldiers. And
right
is
here.
that on page 2? Because the whole thing about how
Let
what
us
she
do
says
without soldiers.
Yeah. Read that, if you will,
Sure.
to the part where she talks about how lame murder is or slaughter.
The sense of victory, surely, the celebration of courage. But as we did without clergy, let us do without soldiers. The joy built upon successful slaughter is not the right kind of joy. It will not do. It is fearful and it is trivial. A boundless and generous contentment, a magnanimous triumph felt not against some outer enemy, but in common with the finest and fairest in the souls of all men everywhere, and the splendor of the world's summer.
I wanted to read that part about a triumph that comes from slaughter will not do, and about how it's kind of brutish and trivial. Like,
right.
Yeah, our army is better than your army. She's calling that trivial. I like that. It's anyway.
Maybe it's boring, right?
Yeah, it is, and you can almost see it like, I don't know, militaristic Super Bowl displays, like when the jets fly over the or if you think of like old USSR when they'd have
the goose stepping through the red square.
Yeah,
that's what I think of.
It's lame, you know.
It is.
I mean, it's kind of frightening in a way, but it's also just corny and lame. And this Omelas is it's above that kind of crap, you know. And by the way, here's just a trivial thing. Omelas, I'm wondering if I can try to give you a hint to guess what this might be, but it's a tricky name. It's a word that LeGuin came up with from a real world, a real place. She's from Oregon.
Oh.
And she's like anyway, I was trying to drag this out a little bit, but it's backward. It's SalemO.
That's what
backward.
I thought. Okay,
Salem, Oregon.
If it was backward something.
Yeah, it's Omelas. So it sounds really exotic, but it's just Salem, Oregon, and backwards. And
nice. It's an old writer's trick, right?
A little. I guess it was just easier that way than coming up with some, but also kind of rooting it. Also, just telling us this place is not real.
Right.
I mean, she's not trying
over
to
and over again
trick us into thinking this is real. And so she finally gets to the point where, what's the catch?
Right. And we're halfway through.
Yeah. We're more than halfway through probably and she goes, well, there is one catch. Now he goes, you don't believe it, do you? And we're like, no.
Let me describe one more thing.
Yeah. And do you want to summarize?
Shall I read the paragraph?
Oh, no, wait. We haven't got to the part about we're really dragging out the conflict here, but
well,
I wanted to talk about the beer because
the beer.
She goes. At first, I was going to say there's no drugs, but then I'm like,
there is.
Sure, there's drugs. There's really great drugs. It's like most people don't really need to take it because they're already happy. But yeah, if you want drugs, you can take drugs. And she goes, and there definitely will be beer.
There won't be. Wait, there won't be beer.
There will be beer.
There will be beer. Okay.
So there's beer in Omelas, which makes me like Ursula. I think she would be fun to party with.
She would be good at the moon underwater.
Yeah, she would. Mm-hmm. Come on, if you can be resurrected.
Well,
yeah.
We're working on that.
That's right. It could happen.
Apparently
I guess.
It's been done before, so people say.
Sure. And we can even talk about that.
Sure.
Because that's one of the readings. There's a number of readings here.
Oh.
But here's my story about beer.
Oh, good.
About beer.
Right.
I believe I've probably set it up too hard, and it's going to not be that great, but
this is going to be the best story ever.
It is the greatest story
welcome.
that has ever been told, and it is going to start right now. I went to a Detroit Tigers game once from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I used to live in Kalamazoo, and me and my friend Joel Humphreys, he was a big Tigers fan, and we got a whole group of people all kind of fit in this car, and we drove to Detroit.
Okay.
And we got there. This is several years ago. Downtown Detroit had not been bougyified by that point.
That would have been like 20 years ago.
It was 2000, probably 2010 or something.
Okay, I was there 2014, 2015. It looked great.
I mean,
come on this show and defend yourself, Detroit.
Hey, man, Detroit, I was there just recently.
Cool
the
city.
whole downtown is
nice.
Totally hopping.
Yeah, it is.
Back then it wasn't. It had Tiger Stadium.
Okay.
And then like
cool.
2 or 3 little kind of like corporate, places.
Yeah.
And then immediately after that, desolation.
Yeah.
But we walked around and we found a little dive bar. Can't remember the name of it. But it was pretty sketchy. Like there were streetwalkers coming in to like try to offer their wares, and then
inside.
the bartender like ran them off, and everybody there kind of looked at us funny. We're like, who are these people doing here? These like 4 white guys, and like they look like college students or something, or I guess we were too old for that. I mean, they were like right out the window. There were people completely passed out.
Like sounds like Philadelphia, to be honest.
Yeah, there we go. They had like bottles of beer in a bucket. So we got Miller High Life.
Ooh.
In a bucket, but it wasn't like the branded
beers.
bucket, like the metal. It was like these plastic Ace Hardware buckets. And she brought us our buckets. And then as soon as she, being the bartender, realized we were there to drink, she loved us. And everybody, anyway, that's the story. And we were just, we started drinking beer in Detroit. Then we got a Coney dog, went to the game. It was a blast. It was a crazy day. And we ended up back in Kalamazoo late that night, and at any rate, laws were broken, and but nobody was hurt, luckily, and it was a great time. So when I think of beer in a bucket, I always think of good old Detroit.
When we're in LA, I'm going to have to tell my LA dive bar story.
All right, let's do
great.
it. Let's do it. Now it's set up, so it better be good.
Yeah.
So
it'll be fun.
So now we're finally going to get to the catch. Now, this place is so perfect. There needs to be some reason.
Yep.
Something to make us believe it. And what is that thing?
That thing is that there is some sort of child that's been kept in the basement somewhere locked up, basically.
Looks about 6 years old, but is actually 10 because it's so malnourished. It's simple-minded, but they don't know whether it's developed.
Could be a boy or girl.
Could be a boy or girl. It's naked. It's in its own shit.
Yep.
It's got sores.
Like the refrigerator back there that took a shit. And I imagine it shit on itself.
Yeah, that's right. Long-time listeners of the show know very well how the kegerator
took a shit. Still, I think it's down.
I
don't know. I didn't ask, I guess.
Still shitting.
PBR.
And I kind of like the bucket thing. That should be
too. I think that may be our go-to. So,
but the kid is described at length, and it is a horrifying experience. It's not like strapping a kid down and sadistically murdering them, but it's about as much neglect.
Oh, man.
And it's like long, like you're going to be there forever.
Now
suffering.
I grew up in the. Do you remember the parents that went out of town, and they left their like 9-year-old kids? Yeah. Well, that was my hometown.
Oh wow!
Happened in. It was the first one of the cases where this was, and they lived, but within a couple miles of where I grew up, and I grew up out in the country.
Yeah.
So, like outside of Chicago, I thought of that today.
Yeah.
So I was reading this.
One thing that really gets me is that the kid is terrified of the bucket with mops in it.
Yeah.
Because it thinks it's a monster, and when people come to see it and feed it, it goes, "I'll be good, let me out," and nobody talks to it. Yeah. And what it turns out is that through some unexplained magical thing, the success of this perfect town all depends upon the suffering of this one child. And everybody in the town realizes it, they learn it, and that's why they are not simpletons. They're
accepting it.
They're serious people because they realize that they're
I get the Jesus-y thing.
That's one of the readings.
It wasn't mine.
Should we go there? Do you want to do the Jesus?
I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? One person has to suffer for everybody to be happy.
So if you think about it, it could be a critique of Christianity.
Sure.
That it's a whole worldview.
And it was a kid that did it, right? Well, he's 33 or whatever.
That it's a whole worldview that glorifies the suffering of one person to absolve everyone, all of humanity, of their sins.
But only if you pretend to eat his flesh and drink his blood.
That's an extra part of it, and that's only one of the. That's one of the less. You seem skeptical, Steve, and that offends my religious sensibilities. But since we're at the bar, we don't talk religion.
I am offended that you are nursing that beer.
I'm not the
Yes,
one
I
with
did.
having such a bad day.
Oh, yeah.
You seem like you're good now.
Good
you
now.
Slurp
This
down
is
that
fun.
beer and yeah.
Yeah.
So-
This is way more fun than I thought it was going to be.
There we go.
So I'm good.
Yeah. The reading of it is painful. That's
It's a little painful.
You having to read text is
Yeah.
kind of like putting you in a basement
It is.
and not feeding you and
Making
having
me
you
the
crap on yourself.
sacrificial kid.
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
That's why I'm having so much fun because you suffered so much. The more you suffer, just the happier I am. That's always been that way.
I didn't love reading it, but I liked that it was different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that there's a narrative voice that's jaunty and fun, but it isn't. There isn't. So, here's how a short story goes, from a creative writing perspective. It is about a character, a main character, and this main character is a human or a stand-in for it. It could be a robot, but it's got to be a robot with that we see as
Human-like features. Yeah.
or just
All right.
not features. It could be a talking rabbit. But we just think
long
of
as it
it
talks.
as a person.
Yeah.
Right. And it has the same kind of ideas. And this character has a problem, and they struggle with the problem, and they either solve it at the end or they don't solve it at the end. And that's what a story is. In this case, there's no main character. It's just
I was
it's
going
a
to say
situation.
that in the stories that we've read, we have a beginning, middle, and an end, and
That's true.
This doesn't even really have that.
No, it doesn't. It has a
Right.
thing. It has a status quo, and
Yeah.
we, the listener, the reader, the watcher, are invited to check out the status quo and think about it. And so,
Okay.
anyway, that's. So here we are. We've got this child that's suffering, and they bring other children
Yeah.
in to see it
Right.
when they're around that age, 8 to 12. And that's when they are just let in on the secret. Hey, all this stuff we're getting, this happiness we have, it all depends upon this. And the children are outraged. They're sickened. People are upset by it. But almost everybody,
Yeah, I was going to say.
almost everybody just kind of gets over it. Like
wow,
they,
that's so terrible. I'm going to have to leave here.
and they also end up making pretty interesting rationalizations. Or, even if you took that kid out, it's so debased by this time, it's probably not even going to have a good life, even if you do kind of.
Right.
And maybe it even likes it in there.
Could
like,
be.
And
But
so
they do say that they would like to do something for the child, but there's nothing they can do.
nothing they can do because their prosperity is all depends upon that. And then should we save the very end for the very end of the podcast and then just talk about the different theories of what this is supposed to be about?
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you think? What would?
All right, I got a couple.
All right, let's hear them.
So it's the and there at the beginning we hear about joy and describing joy. How would you describe joy? And that's
Yeah.
kind of what this is to me,
Yeah.
where you can't have joy without suffering. Did I pass? What's
I think
my
that's a
grade,
good one.
Professor?
And here's, I'll kind of even take that one step deeper or more complicated. Some people have come up with the reading that it is a critique of like fantasy fiction or fiction in general,
Okay.
in that the hero always has to be, all right, you can't be a winner unless there's a loser.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. And it's our whole society is kind of built on that. And
Yep.
here's how I think about it is we aren't happy or sad with our place in life on some objective standard. What it is we look on Instagram, and if somebody's got more than us, we get pissed off.
Yeah.
And if we look at people who have less than us, then we're like, oh, I'm glad I
I
have
don't know
le-"
about always, but I think a lot of the time.
I
Yeah.
think it's comparison.
I agree.
Because they say that America, in like survey data, Americans are less happy now than they've ever been, but objectively, they have more wealth
way more.
than they've ever had.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have more, and even poorer people have
Way more
luxury
wealth.
items
Yeah, yeah.
and more wealth.
Yeah.
But what is it? It's because they're seeing
Other people with
they're
more.
getting it rubbed, their faces rubbed in how, and also people are on Instagram pretending to be fancier than they are, right?
Totally.
And so we all have
I do it
these-
all the time.
Oh, I don't put pictures of...
You put pictures of the food you were eating for a year.
That's
Fancy
true.
pants.
Not everyone was fancy.
Here's a 64-ounce ribeye. I had all of it the other day.
I never did that. I love...
wish you did.
My favorite part was when I was on Ragbri and I was showing pictures of like Casey's Pizzas and stuff.
Yeah.
And some people didn't get it. They were like, "What are you doing, man?" Like, and
Really?
yeah, some people weren't really as focused on the project as they should have been. I don't think anybody. I didn't tell anybody I did an Instagram project where I took a picture of every meal I had for a year. Which ended up being 365 days because I just would miss days now and then for whatever reason. And it was just something I did. And
I think you regretted it about a third of the way through, and you
it was
continued.
getting tedious, but I told myself I was going to do it for
I
a
like
year.
that.
And it was really weird. It wasn't like I got like hundreds or, of
You got
comment.
tens of likes. on
Tens
them.
of likes pretty regularly,
Yep.
but I also just locally, people I didn't know would say, "Oh, you're the dinner guy."
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, all the time. Every time I went out, it seemed like somebody would, not every time I went out. I didn't go out that often, but
So then it was every time you went out.
yeah, it was funny. It definitely wasn't me getting mobbed by a crowd, but it was a weird kind of really low level fame for something that
Amazing.
has no merit whatsoever.
Did you try out? I'm also an author. Have you read Cloudbreak?
I wish I would have. Cloudbreak, California.
And I wish you would have done that, just to make
Make them go
the
away.
casual flex that
Casual-
also
casual
been published.
Well, casual flex or just scare them away because I'm trying to sell something. It's almost like an author telling about their book is like a Christian saying, "Hey, have you
heard about our Savior, Lord
You're
and
like,
Savior?"
excuse me, check please.
Truth. Yep.
But so, yeah, we did the Christ, the critique of Christianity one. That's a small one. And then there's the one that you just said was this. Oh, the more specifically is that fantasy. Just think of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It really isn't us against them. It is you're either a wizard or you're a muggle. And
True.
if you're a muggle, you're shit, basically.
Also
and
true.
So there's an elitism in all
Muggles
of
are
these
shit.
and all of these kinds of things. And it really kind of like bleeds into our sense of real life. And it also, there's almost they are player characters and then everybody else is a non-player character.
NPCs.
And I feel like it could be taken as a critique of this need to have somebody down for your character to feel up. Or anyway, so
Okay.
yeah, I agree with that one. Or that is one of the readings. The main one is that it is a critique of the philosophy known as utilitarianism.
Okay.
I haven't read any utilitarian text, but
What
it's
would
the
they be?
idea is that you get that it is the moral philosophy, the right thing to do is the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people.
Right.
And so you got to be willing to break some eggs if you're going to make an
It's
omelet.
only one person has to suffer.
It's a pretty damn good deal.
I think that's all right. So
It-
instead of railing against utilitarianism, I'm like, sucks to be that kid. Everybody else is happy.
Yeah, but here's the other side of that critique, or where that critique goes, is that we all are living, all of us in America, all of us in most places in Europe, and in Europe, let's just say, everybody in the first world is living in a version of Omelas, except it's not nearly as perfect and way more people have to suffer.
Yeah.
And so here's the kind of make you feel bad about your life kind of part of it is we of course know that what makes how our iPhones get made means
Ooh.
that there's some people
You definitely don't want to know.
living some really unhappy
Yeah.
lives so that we can afford our iPhones, and every aspect of our life can be traced to somebody who's pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And how do we deal with that? we don't really think about it.
No,
right?
we'd rather not. No.
And if we do go and look at the baby, the child in the basement, which most of us don't even do that, then we pretty quickly go away from it
Yeah.
and don't think about it.
That's what I
And
choose
we
to
are
do.
not willing to give up
No.
our good stuff, even though, I don't know, let me put it this way. I will buy grass-fed beef.
Yeah.
Because I've told myself that I like it better, but I also
leaner.
feel better that I don't mind eating meat, but I like the idea that the animals got to kind of have a good time while they were living.
Yeah.
The whole
Before they were meat.
feedlot thing where they're just like every second of their life is just pure torture.
And they're eating nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole goose liver,
That's actually
the
what I
pate
like.
thing.
I love pate too. I
Yeah,
know.
of course. It's
I'm-
good. You can
I'm-
taste the torture.
How
so-
many kids are they going to torture for this? I'm probably okay with it. Yeah, I'm good now because it's not me. See, that's kind of my take. I don't know. I think the read that I went with was okay. Well, there's no suffering without, or there's no joy without suffering, and so they got to suffer.
But
okay,
you're,
wait, I
you're
wanna go
saying
back to
that
this.
as if it's a kind of universal truth. I feel like that is experientially, that is how life has been. But is it true that you can't be happy without, like, is it a kind of like,
I think
so
I've
is
seen
it like the
people that
law,
are-
is it like the law of gravity? Like you cannot
No.
have happiness
I
without,
don't think so.
yeah, I think it's just that's just kind of how we are,
Yeah.
in that the strong dominate the weak, and the weak, it kind of sucks to be the weak.
Yeah, I
and
fucking hate it.
It's kind of good
Oh.
to be the strong, and but you try. I think that if you are living in a moral society, you try to bring it a little closer to fair.
All right.
And I mean, that's just
Can I bring it back
morality.
to something?
Yeah.
You mentioned utilitarianism. What would you say is the biggest, I don't know, piece of writing, or is there a novel? Is there a short story? An author?
About utilitarianism? I really don't. I think this is embarrassing that you asked me that.
Oh.
But there should be. It's one of those big philosophers that you've heard of.
Oh.
If we could Google it, it would be, one of the ones you've heard of but haven't read in Philosophy 101.
Ever? Yeah.
But I just haven't gone there. I'm not a philosopher, and I have total contempt for the whole.
Wow.
The whole endeavor, discipline,
The whole charade.
and especially the people that practice it.
Dang.
I'm
Especially Tim.
I'm just.
I liked where you're
No.
going with that. I could feel
I
it.
like.
Yeah.
Philosophers. I like, and philosophy students. I like because it's hard and they tend to be pretty smart.
Yes, they are.
And I think what they sharpen their wits on is totally worthless. But
I tried to be a philosophy major at Iowa.
You weren't smart enough.
I got a lot of C's. Yep. I didn't declare it, but I took a bunch of the classes. And then when I say I took the classes,
and
I mean,
and you didn't come across utilitarianism, huh?
well, I didn't go very often.
I wonder why you were getting C's.
I know.
Yeah.
So maybe I was smart enough to be a philosopher, but I just wasn't smart enough to go to class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody told me something. Somebody told me. I heard this on a podcast. That the
like they
British,
told you.
the British system of education, one thing that's different from it from America is that you get two kinds of grades. One is the grade for your performance.
Yep.
The other is for your effort.
What
And what they say, what everybody goes for.
is the grade?
No, they all go for the highest status thing you can do if you're a student is highest grades on performance, lowest grades on effort, because that means
You're really smart.
you're really smart and you don't have to try very hard. And this was discussed in the
wow.
context of that gosh, who was the prime minister, UK prime minister, that was so flamboyant? Like a few.
Boris Johnson?
Yeah, Boris Johnson.
There it is.
He was the poster child of he never works, but he's brilliant. And and that's kind of why he was so sloppy as a prime minister. I guess he just made mistakes because he just didn't put any effort in. He was just lazy.
Crazy.
And so this guy, he was a British guy. He was criticizing his own country's culture that it's like cool to not care. Anyway.
Well, it was cool to be dumb here for a really long time.
I think it still is. I think
God, I was going with think about back when Paris Hilton was all over TV and
aren't the Kardashians still kind of?
I pretend they don't exist.
Yeah.
Come on this show and defend yourself.
Yeah, Kardashians.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many there are.
I don't either.
One of them's name is Kim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chloe. It's another one.
You think?
And there's the mom.
I would love for them to come here and.
Who's Kris Jenner?
But you know what? They're cowards.
They are cowards.
They would never do it.
Never.
They don't have the guts.
they couldn't sit in this bar and drink a PBR with us.
No, they couldn't.
Nope.
Too good for it.
Yeah.
But also too scared.
Right.
Because this is real America. They don't understand that shit.
We suffer.
So that they can
fucking that relates to this.
Yeah, man.
It's like we scripted that.
We're the
shit.
kid.
Yeah, we are the kid.
This is bullshit.
God, I knew it. I knew today sucked.
Bullshit. Yeah. And now we know finally.
Now it did actually suck. I was right.
Yeah.
Oh. Explains a lot. I mean, I actually had to go to a job. So did you. They don't have to work.
I did. I taught today, man.
Yeah.
So that I have. Look at this. I filled up my last notebook, and I have a new one that I got at a conference. This is a swag thing. Look at it, and it is Mindbuck Media Book Publicity, and they were trying to sell me on hiring them to do all my publicity work, I guess. And I got this nifty thing, and I got the notebook from them, but didn't hire them. But at least I'm saying it on the podcast, so it worked.
Did you say to them only if you have a cage match with Garza?
Yeah, Garza. We haven't even really introduced Garza here.
Maybe not now. Well, maybe we should do it earlier in an episode.
Yeah, maybe next. So this is our teaser. We have a new member of the team.
We do.
And her name is Garza.
Yep.
And she is I guess we are introducing her a little bit.
Right.
We'll get a little bit more into it later, but she'll be doing some work. She started some stuff. And
we have an employee.
And
what kind of big stuff? I don't know if anybody's noticed.
Yeah, I think that the press is on it. I think there are a number of
QClocal.com. I'm hoping
pieces in the work. Yeah. QClocal.com. Locals love us.
Mm-hmm. Wait. I'll send them a bill for $50 for that.
All right. I'm just looking through my thing.
The new tiny notebook that's comically small. I was going to tell you that's like psychopath sized.
It's cute. It is adorbs.
I like that it's got a little thing for the pen.
Yeah. The pen is nice too. It's like cardboard.
Oh.
And yet it really the ink kind of just comes right out.
Nice.
It's so I think I got that's it. We hit all of my readings, which weren't that many of them. But we haven't covered how it ends. No, we haven't. So there are most people see the suffering child and think, that's how it goes.
That's me.
But some people they just are like, no, I'm not going to do it. And they leave. They walk away from Omelas, and that's the title of the piece. They're often young people. It's just like after they see it, they're just like, I'm out. And they walk away. And then, but sometimes an older person will just quit their job they'll just like get up and walk away. They just can't take it anymore.
That's it.
They don't want to be a part of it.
They have a job?
I don't know if you have jobs in this place.
I don't think you could.
Let me see. I'm going to read the last paragraph.
All right.
I think it's really beautiful. I think that in a lesser writer, a lesser prose practitioner, I think this story is pretty ham-fisted and could be pretty boring. I enjoyed it partly just because of the liveliness of the writing itself.
It's totally different.
And
right?
So, yeah, let me jump in. Some of the writing about how people start trying to justify it.
Yeah.
Their tears at the bitter injustice dry when they begin to perceive the terrible justice of reality and to accept it. That's kind of us. We're like, yeah, life sucks, man.
Yeah.
And it's better to be on the good side of it than the bad.
No, we actually say life's a nard.
Life is a nard,
we got a
as
train.
we all know. Ding. All right, let's see. I'm going to read the last paragraph. It's not super short, but it's not too crazy. At times, one of the adolescent girls or boys who go to see the child does not go home to weep or rage, does not, in fact, go home at all. Sometimes also a man or woman much older falls silent for a day or two and then leaves home. These people go out into the street and walk down the street alone. They keep walking and walk straight out of the city of Omelas, through the beautiful gates. They keep walking across the farmlands of Omelas. Each one goes alone, youth or girl, man or woman. Night falls. The traveler must pass down village streets between the houses with yellow lit windows and on out into the darkness of the fields. Each alone, they go west or north, towards the mountains. They go on. They leave Omelas. They walk ahead into the darkness, and they do not come back. The place they go towards is a place even less imaginable to most of us than the city of happiness. I cannot describe it at all. It is possible that it does not exist. But they seem to know where they are going, the ones who walk away from Omelas.
Ooh.
I love that. The prose is gorgeous. That last paragraph, she saves her chops. It's got a repetition to it, a poetic quality. And she also, I think it's interesting that we don't know where they're going. And the author who's just made up this whole utopian town, she can't even imagine. She goes, I can't even describe it, like where they're going. And she also says, I don't think it exists.
It's enlightenment.
And yet the people who walk away seem to know where they're going. And I'm just wondering how you take this. And I would warn against having an overly simplistic view that these people are necessarily the heroes of the story.
The ones that walk away? No, the hero's clearly the child.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't...
Like Jesus,
but no, Jesus chose in a lot of ways to be... I mean, he didn't want to be crucified in the story, but he did...
It's Bible Talk with Kelly Daniels and Steve Jones.
He claimed himself to be the savior. I'm the guy. The child never claimed anything. It's just a child. It's just total sacrificial.
What do you suppose he was like as a child? Probably like... Maybe he was, that was him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
it's Bible Talk with Kelly and Steve.
Eventually, the one who is tortured in Omelas is Jesus.
It is.
Later grows up to become Jesus.
Resurrected.
Yeah.
And
So
second time resurrections come up on this.
Yeah.
Are we wrapping up?
Well, I wanted to just ask that question. Where do you think they're going?
Well, like I said, enlightenment, right? They've seen.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess they're going toward that place. Like, Omelas is pretty good.
Yeah.
They got everything, and only one kid has to suffer. They're looking for the place that's good, and nobody suffers. Or are they looking for the place
that's worse,
where everybody suffers a little bit?
Oh, that's what I mean. Maybe they're looking for the place that's worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have a sacrificial lamb at its center. They're also looking for moral purity. They know where they're going, and where they're going is they're not compromised. The rest of us are compromised, right? We're like, yeah, I live in this society. I profit off of other people's unhappiness from faraway places, and I don't think about it. And I don't. In Omelas, they say that it is free of guilt.
Yeah.
People don't feel guilt. They're just like, nah, you just have to get over it.
I wish I had that.
Yeah.
But I don't have guilt about stuff that, like
about who
having
makes
an
your,
iPhone.
About who makes your tennis shoes.
Right.
I don't spend a lot of. I don't spend
I got
a lot
new
of.
ones too.
I don't spend a lot of time. Oh, very nice.
I know.
Adidas.
Yeah, no, my feet are kind of wide, so
I
these are
feel
the only
like
things that fit.
the latest Adidas are made with actual human skin.
I believe they are.
Yeah,
I think they're marketed that way. It's why not?
Very comfortable.
And once you get in some human skin, Oh God.
So anyway.
All right. So where do you think they're going?
I feel like they're deluded, but they are at least trying. But they also remind me of activist types who are just a little bit better than the rest of us.
Yeah.
And I feel like here's my critique of the ones who walk away from Omelas. They're not freeing the child.
No, they just walk away.
They are walking away from the good that comes of this suffering. They're refusing to partake in it for their own moral purity, but they aren't doing any good in the world.
Damn it, this is why you're a professor.
That's just my own take. But on the other hand, maybe
they didn't
storming the basement and rescuing the child.
Maybe that was the right thing to do.
That might be the moral thing to do, but that's not the way the story goes. They just opt out. But also, if we're going to opt out, if we are not going to... I was on Reddit a little bit and reading about this, and I feel like there's some very young people on Reddit who have... They're probably high school students, and they have very strong opinions about the world, and they're like, I would never do that. I would never stick around and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro.
Yo, I totally would. Yeah.
You would, but also you are. All you people on Reddit, if you're sitting here commenting on Reddit, you have not dropped out of the societal.
No.
And even if you
haven't walked away.
Who walks away? There are people who go and live off the grid, but they, you know what? They end up on a reality TV show about people who walk off the grid, and I just don't believe it.
Very convenient.
And also, you're still getting shit.
Come on this show and defend yourselves, you people.
Yeah, you.
I can't even name anybody.
People on that show.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
That show I didn't watch, but I know there is like a living off the grid show, I think.
I'm sure.
More than one, probably.
Yeah. There's definitely one in Alaska.
Yeah. You Alaskan cowards.
Yeah.
You think that you can I live in the Klondike, whatever that means.
Yeah.
It's cold up there. Oh, yeah? Well.
It's cold here.
It's pretty cold here.
Yeah. It's really fucking cold right now.
Yeah. It is pretty
cold. For being May when this comes out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's right.
Perfect timing.
And so, if you've got the guts, you know where we are.
Usually we're here.
Sometimes we're here.
All right.
So the ones who walk away from Omelas.
So I want to go back to the utilitarian.
All right, let's do
comment because I think I have a name. It's one that in my head immediately. So I was going to go with Ayn Rand.
Oh.
And maybe I'm totally wrong, but I did not look it up.
Ayn Rand is not a philosopher, but
sort of is.
She's a novelist.
Kind of a philosopher. Depends on who you talk to.
I feel like people that have
philosophy degrees. Well, that's probably true.
I would want somebody.
We already besmirched them earlier.
I would want to hear from somebody who is who their job title is philosopher.
I would prefer someone who's called a philosophizer.
Philosophizer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
It's a good one.
Now, Ayn Rand is just, I just think.
You ever read any of them?
No.
I have tried.
Yeah.
I
heard the prose is not good.
Unreadable.
But I think the idea is, I've heard critiques of it mainly, but it is just a kind of simplistic and
Yes.
adolescent
Yeah.
version of if you just deregulate, then the strongest will survive, or kind of like evolutionary kind of society. Like,
I didn't appreciate it. I thought I probably got a third of the way through Atlas Shrugged, which is like 1,000 pages, and I went.
isn't that about an architect that's supposed to be?
Trains? It's the
it's-
Taggart Transcontinental and the
Oh,
Taggart
okay.
Line, and I couldn't tell you about after halfway through. Maybe I've gotten there
but
like
did she-
3 times.
But was she preaching that? That if you
not
that no, I think utilitarianism is more like collectivism. It's more like, I think it's more of a defense of like a communism kind of thing.
Maybe what I'm saying is that she
Maybe
had
not.
a character or characters that
Yeah.
that represented that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that was like
They were the bad guys,
yeah,
though, right?
Right.
Oh, so there is one thing I wanted to say about the different societies. So some people, especially on Reddit, they're like, "Oh, it's a critique of capitalism," because
Let's get those Redditors on here.
yeah, you
And-
cowards, get your ass to the Riverview Roadhouse. However many thousands of you there are.
Oh yeah.
And we'll take every one of you on one after another. And don't hide behind your little computer screen and
Yeah.
say snarky little things.
Yeah, keyboard warrior.
Yeah, show up.
Defend yourself. Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
Nah, we're never going to get those people. But they, it's also every governmental system, except for maybe the banned like system of like tribal people, when food foragers,
Yeah.
they were probably pretty egalitarian.
Okay.
Like, you just kind of,
Yeah.
you walked around, you picked stuff up off the
I don't know,
ground.
but maybe some people were better at picking stuff up, or like better people were,
They
killing
were, they were, but they would share stuff in those kind of
something.
societies.
Until they were like, "Yo,
no, you don't.
didn't put in the work. You don't get this." Like,
Yeah, I do feel like they, in some of, we need.
I would be completely angry.
We need an anthropologist here could talk about this stuff more. But I believe that everybody does have to put in the work. You get shunned socially, but
Right.
you also don't get to hoard shit. Like you don't get to. No,
I don't like that part.
I caught that you like to hoard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. They would kill you. They would like if you hoarded, they would like drive you out. Like, nah, that guy's not cool. But also, what are you gonna do if you catch a gazelle? And the meat is gonna rot in 3
Good.
days.
Yeah.
But you'll just keep it because
Yeah.
you don't want to. No, you share it with everybody because the next time somebody else.
Yeah, maybe. Or I'm the one that's powered to, by the gazelle I just killed to go get another gazelle. And those slow fuckers aren't getting one.
Yeah.
A gazelle.
But
So,
you have a band of 50 people, and you're the only one that survives. Like because.
Man, I'm good.
Yeah.
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 That's happiness for me
I
because
think-
everybody else suffered. See?
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah, that is good.
One kid or everyone doesn't
Yeah.
matter as long as I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's good philosophy. You would have been.
Good philosophizer.
Yeah.
I know.
But also, communism is also ended up with a
Yeah.
few people who got the good stuff, and other people that suffered. And
There is no gulag. Yes, my turn
Yes.
to do the Russian accent.
no, you're good at it. You're better at it than me. I need to work on my Russian accent, but yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we didn't need to do that callback or
Oh, no.
backtrack to.
We
But
did.
For some reason, I can only think that there's like communism and capitalism seem to be the only human societies. Oh, and the egalitarian, food forager societies. That's
True.
pretty much it.
They're
No,
still
but
out
there's
there.
kingdoms like the kingdom would be if you're in the royal family, if you're the feudal system, if you're a noble,
Yep.
you're doing okay. Although
You're
I will
doing all right.
a little bit, but if you think about it, we live better
Oh God, yeah.
now than any king
Oh,
in the kingdom history. You know, like
Right.
in the those people. Just think about dental care. I don't care.
Oh.
I don't care who you are. You know,
my
when your
God.
tooth started rotting out.
Well, it's
and,
like England today. Nice. Got him.
And you know what, England? If you don't like it, you know where we are. Yeah.
And defend yourself. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So yeah,
God, this was a lot more fun than I had anticipated.
yeah. You came into. You should come into it with a bad attitude more
I
often.
will. I was
Because
like-
you drink
I was
that
like,
first beer really fast,
did.
and then
thirsty.
yeah,
Yeah, the second one went down also fast.
pretty fast. You better.
I've been out of beer for a while.
Maybe you need a third beer since you had such a hard day. But we'll do that off.
Yeah, we are.
That
We're gonna do
bell
that.
was for nobody. But
No, but
what
for
do you
the
think?
beer that we're having offline.
What do you think? Are we done?
We're done,
Are we
man.
going to start?
Good times. Had
All
by
right.
most.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating
Click like
on
and
your
subscribe.
like and subscribe and
Pointing to where
comment.
it's gonna be.
And also
There's a link at the bottom.
our email address is theguys@.com.
The Moon Underwater Pubcast. Nice.
And drop us a line. We even have an employee that will
Yeah.
be in charge of
Yeah.
telling us that there's an email.
Yep.
And
She manages the email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Email,
And
other
us.
stuff.
We need a manager.
Wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't hurt. All right. Lates. I just did a OK sign, which is like the right